Hello, students. Today, I'm proud to present my topic in the Complutense University of Madrid One Asia lecture series. I am Dr. Keisha LaRaine Ingram from the University of Applied Sciences in Vilnius, Lithuania, and I will speak on superhero gender fantasy assimilations. Am I the creator of my image? So, regarding fantasy assimilation and the superhero landscape, since the start, the cinematic superhero landscape has always had limited spaces for the female superhero, with their underrepresentation and constant comparison to their male colleagues, despite a drastic evolvement to these characters. In an evidently male dominated space, there is no surprise that being female will rarely be the first image associated with the cape donning superhero. Yet, in a drastically evolving field of cinema lies a growing demand and anticipation for movies and even more roles of the female superhero. With an increasing amount of justified fights for more presence of female superheroes in cinema, it is clear that these female characters have something in them, specifically that draws the audience. Back in the earlier years of comic books, men can clearly be seen as the leading figure for superheroes, villains, and sidekicks, while the women merely fill in the role of the love interest or the ever too curious damsel who, in her eagerness to know more about the superhero, gets caught by the villain and later saved by the same superhero who she later admires and falls for. When it comes to fantasy assimilation and the superhero landscape, so far, when we relate to the perfect superhero, this is a being that is physically strong and emotionally stoic, held up by the stereotypes of a man, male figure at first thought. Feminine versus masculine appeal. What do we think of this when it comes to superheroes? In their own suits and stories, what is it then that the female superhero can bring to the table their male co stars can't, while gradually garnering all these appeal and cheers in front of their movie screens? One thing that is always highlighted with the introduction of the female superhero is their femininity, a term that is often associated with being weak or fragile, as seen by both on screen characters and at times even the movie audience. As a result, every time these female superheroes show their actual capabilities to those who think they can't put up a fight, not only becomes a surprise when it is proven that these assumptions are wrong, but also translate as a sign that they don't actually know half about these characters as yet. Subversion of expectations. Reflecting on the human element of comic book characters is something that feature heroines grappling with young adulthood, body image issues, and a general feelings of isolation. In the wider picture, female superheroes experiences social issues that are important when the image assimilated should not reinforce the stereotypes about how a woman should be, especially in terms of size, appearance, or what is appropriate for anger, fear, and pain for genders, as they all form a key element of stories about the human experience. As characters who are more than who they are first portrayed and introduced to be, it is not a surprise to become curious and excited for scenes and moments that reveal more about their skills and stories. What's more, that shock, whether it's a punch that's wielded with more power than expected, can only be described as satisfying. One example is the She Hulk. The She Hulk's character is a criminal defense lawyer in her human form who is smart, savvy, and level headed. Except when she is not, when she's experiencing periods of anger, her anger transforms her into a bulkier, greener version of herself, which she chose to inhabit permanently in the Avengers movie that which saw them gain victory. Moreover, when it comes to the emotional tie downs on screen, there are mostly two types of female superheroes: the emotional one or the cold one, who has the dark past. Though often seen to be a form of social disability, emotional tie downs are what defines these characters best and the reason that makes them want to fight in the first place. On screen and in comic books, female superheroes are more likely to be portrayed in a vulnerable state due to personal turmoil or reasons related to their loved ones as compared to their male superheroes. So, for example, Scarlet Witch finds herself struggling with guilt after causing the destruction of a building, which in turn killed innocent people in Captain America Civil War. Another example is Wonder Woman's love for Steve and humankind, which is used to manipulate her in the final battle with Ares. Also, Harley Quinn, the fun loving anti hero, will usually have internal battles with herself due to her love for the abusive Joker. It is such vulnerabilities that makes the battles these superheroes have so personal when compared to those that are explosive and large scale. Thus, it is these emotional tie-downs that makes them superheroes more humane rather than just being a being with immense power, and thus making them characters that we can all relate to. Being a valuable and capable sidekick is demonstrated in many examples. For example, when Black Widow was first introduced in Iron Man, she was assumed to be the attractive assistant who does not know the basics of a fight. She then shocks everyone by effortlessly pinning down Happy, Tony Stark's bodyguard, down to the ground. And another example is seen where Supergirl's ability to fight was doubted by Hank before she defeats the targeted villain of the episode. Thus, the sidekick is often known as the most trusted companion and many a time someone who does not have as much authority or spotlight as the protagonist. And usually in those days, a female character at most would be that petty sidekick. However, the capabilities and skills the female superhero as a sidekick possess often tell a different story as they are. Frequently, they are portrayed as secondary characters to the male lead in most superhero films. The female superhero, in contrast, tend to display a great amount of independence and power with her fight as a reliable right-hand man that regularly has an interesting background or personality to back her character up. Mystique in X-Men is a good example. As an extremely strong mutant with the ability to shapeshift, Mystique often comes to the aid of Professor X and Magneto, the seemingly main characters of the X-Men series. Valkyrie is also a near equal to Thor in terms of their dueling abilities. In Thor Ragnarok, Valkyrie, as a Valkyrior, a unit of personal shield maidens to the former Asgardian king Odin, is portrayed to be a capable assistant in the movie. Even Catwoman, an extremely independent and skilled yet controversial anti-heroine, is simply an ally and help to Batman in The Dark Knight Rises. So whether it is that these female superheroes already have their own solo movies or television show, the help they provide to their male protagonists with their great strength and intelligence makes us want to root for them as well. Adding on with their already interesting backgrounds, it's not a surprise that when the female superhero is a character that we would want more scenes of. Now we can safely say that every male superhero have their female counterpart. So characters like Batwoman, X-23, Power Girl, Black Widow, Catwoman, Harley Quinn, Poison Ivy in the Gotham City Sirens are clearly making a name for themselves, as well as getting the reader's attention by having their own comic issues. This goes to show the strong and strengthened impact of the female characters in the comic book, which have made and at the same time becoming more equal to their male counterparts. Eventually, female characters in comics, though coming into their own, owe their origin in that no man and others could make the same claim. Prototypes versus stereotypes. It is fairly common when confronting differences for people to rely on stereotypes. Often the pejorative leading to broad generalization, stereotypes can lead to distorted expectations, and while they may have wrong assumptions about a group, you should instead rely on prototypes, as prototypes represent the essential features of an individual. If we were to compare a superheroine with a supervillainess, there's not much to work on except for the fact that one considers the other to be on the wrong side. Aside from that, supervillainesses are quite similar to superheroines. They do have differences, of course. Most notable usually are their ambition, their goal, and how they get things done. Both usually tend to have superpowers, and both are clear in what they want. However, when it comes down to the opposite of superheroines, it tends to become a tricky situation for supervillainesses. Supervillainesses are being individuals that are evil, meaning that they will less likely to tolerate any intrusion from any other party, which basically shows that every villain had their own agenda and priority. These beings tend to work best on their own. Therefore, the question is more of who is willing or who is pulling the strings rather than who is in charge. In most cases, supervillainesses can actually disregard a lot of what superheroines do. They don't need any sidekicks, but instead tend to have lackeys and cohorts, which can be disposed of whenever the supervillainess wants. With which is why share when you can have everything for yourself kind of mentality in mind. Being evil means that they don't have anything to worry about, and they don't have to be noble or kind or helpful to others. They usually have absolutely no need for blending in or even trying to have a normal superhero life, because being evil is a full-time job for them, and a supervillainess often do everything by themselves for themselves and rarely need help in getting what they want, which usually involves taking over the whole entire world. That supervillainess can make a great villain, and the fact that a female character being evil and sinister can be interesting, tend to create and work well, especially when it comes to prototypes. Superheroes are viewed as role models because of the traits that they possess, example, appearances or skills, example, weapons, violence, and super abilities. The characters also the special features that they possess, which contribute to expectation and perceptions when it comes to gender roles. Messages about gender are communicated in both the quantity and qualities of male and female superheroes. For instance, male characters often outnumber female characters in video games, television shows, including cartoons, and advertising, perhaps because boy viewers outnumber girl viewers, or because boys are considered less likely to watch programs that have female lead characters than those that have male lead characters. Further, male and female characters are portrayed differently. Male heroes are more often highly aggressive, while female heroines are more compassionate, nurturing, and understanding. Underrepresentation may also extend beyond gender. For example, many superheroes appear to be white males. The lack of diversity in superhero renditions may add to socially constructed views about race, ethnicity, gender, and their intersection. Also, gender norms might be radicalized, such as the white superheroes might be depicted with different qualities than black superheroes. Considering their popularity, it is important to analyze the messages superhero films tend to convey. The content of media, in terms of the roles, appearance, and violence, shows that many studies have evaluated gender roles in video games, cartoons, and TV advertising, but have not specifically focused on superhero characters. Furthermore, although the researchers recognize the examining race as it relates to gender, as we as it will be demonstrated in order to achieve adequate sample size in terms of equality. Therefore, it is suggested that future research on these themes should focus on the intersection of race and gender in studying media with larger samples in the to reflect these results. Gender differences in roles when it comes to female superheroes are also demonstrated in media because they are sometimes portrayed as non essential or passive characters, superheroes. Therefore, female characters are more likely than males to have a mentor, and a majority of female characters tend to work in teams rather than alone. Collectively, these results may suggest to viewers that women are less important, knowledgeable, and capable than men, and less likely to be a hero. Furthermore, these portrayals may suggest that males do not need to consult others or require help. In summary, media research suggests that there might be important gender differences in the role of male and female superheroes. Even then, prior research has also examined gender differences in terms of appearance. When it comes to appearance, media characters have revealed that women tend to be primarily demonstrated as sex objects. Females are more likely than males to be portrayed in a sexualized fashion or as engaging in sexually suggestive behavior. In doing so, women typically wear less and more provocative clothing than men. Generally, females are portrayed as attractive, sexy, and feminine, while males are portrayed as rugged, tough, masculine, and muscular. Females are more often portrayed as helpless or as victims than males. Also, in cartoons, comic books, or superhero films, females are depicted more as emotional and superficial or more likely to get overexcited in a crisis situation than male counterparts. Such results indicate that men and women are portrayed very differently in terms of appearance and behaviors, including behaviors associated with power or aggression. When it comes to gender differences in violence, many research have indicated that male characters are frequently violent, use more weapons, and have more abilities. For example, in invisibility, super speed, martial arts, flying, or using magic than female characters. Female victories are achieved through wit, nurturing, compassion, and persuasion rather than the weaponry, physical strength, and aggression of their male counterparts. In some scientific studies, both male and female children perceive male cartoon characters as more violent than female characters. In contrast, other scientific studies found no significant difference in aggression between male and female characters in cartoons. These studies indicate that in some contexts, the media portrays men and women differently in terms of violence and conflict resolution. This could reinforce gender stereotypes that women are less powerful or have fewer abilities than men, and that men are not capable of nurturing or compassion. When it comes to multiculturalism, girls may be more likely to envision themselves in leadership roles and gain more confidence when they see themselves reflected in a superhero movie and television shows, according to several new studies that underscores the importance of on-screen representation. Many studies indicate that girls face a confidence gap compared to boys, and this is like within many cultures. However, when seeing a woman in a superhero or other science fiction roles on screen, this can help girls believe that they can achieve anything they put their mind to. It also provides them with the impactful sources of inspiration, more so than when boys see male characters. The idea that representation matters may have already seemed obvious. The impact of female sci fi characters and superheroes on television and in movies have on girls suggests that female leads make girls feel more strong, brave, confident, inspired, positive, motivated, and ultimately empower them to feel like they can achieve anything they put their mind to. It is also found that female superheroes play an even more impactful role in inspiring female confidence than male superheroes in their male counterparts. More girls said female heroes made them feel that way, while boys said the same of male superheroes. This is even higher for girls of color, with many of them feeling empowered by seeing versions of themselves on screen. So, even though for decades male protagonists have dominated the science fiction and superhero genres, building rabid fan bases, enduring franchises, and billion-dollar businesses in their wake, women, which are often regulated to the roles of damsel in distress or the plucky sidekick, have been both misrepresented and underrepresented in this genre. And this is compromising only a fraction of the characters and frequently hypersexualized, brutalized, and objectified characters. This demonstrates how important strong female leads are and how much representation truly matters. So, Wonder Woman wasn't just hugely profitable, it gave an entire generation of girls a confidence boost that they sorely need. Since girls are watching, they need to see themselves represented on screen. Although we tend to choose our identities, we're heavily influenced by our environments, our peers, our society. If all three of those things are saying women aren't strong, aren't intelligent, aren't emotionally stable, what kind of identities as young women are we forming? In the digital age, girls will grow up idolizing their favorite characters and also boys. They also will pull from them and the way, especially how they are treated on screen, to determine how they want to be treated in real life. If female characters are brushed off, not listened to, and never central to the story, women will grow up believing that this behavior is acceptable. It therefore means that girls need to see stronger women in order to become stronger women themselves. They need encouragement from women who are winning. They also need to see examples of strong personalities to develop their very own. This is how we can close the confidence gap and create more leaders in society. It therefore says that female superheroes have the potential to make a dramatic impact on the confidence gap. Girls are already seeing that watching their favorite superhero makes them feel like they can accomplish anything. So, why aren't there more? How will girls ever know what they're capable of if they never see it in other women? How will it be normalized if it is never plastered on billboards, social media, or on big screens? Girls need to see confidence, leadership, and accomplishment in other women to envision themselves with those qualities. Unfortunately, not all girls have this influence. For them, things like female led superhero movies become exponentially more important for teaching that women are strong, smart, capable beings. On the other side of the coin, a better example of women in the media can help to sway the internalized misogyny already living in men. Wonder Woman in 2018 sparked a new age of film. She was the first female led superhero movie in 15 years. In the superhero department, also, Black Widow, Wonder Woman 1984, and Birds of a Prey are a few of the many that are come on mainstream. We are obviously being heard as women, and the world is beginning to wake up to the blessing that is a woman on screen in the digital age. Within the modern economy, this may come in part thanks to women breaking into male dominating professions like directing and using their influence to create more women centric movies. While Wonder Woman was arguably just a basic average superhero movie, it blew everyone away because of one very unique detail. It was led by a strong, confident woman. It was the first female led superhero movie since 2005, and it has sparked something really great. Personally, I consciously seek out strong women to learn about how and why, like in addition or in relation to Wonder Woman moments since I first saw that movie. I never put any effort into growing up like this because I had no idea how important it was. I didn't know because there weren't any or not plenty Wonder Woman in my life. I would have had to seek them out on my own and also having been friends with them. Therefore, I understand in my growing up that more girls like me need to see leaders in order to become leaders. Therefore, strong female role models should be as common as the male ones. They shouldn't just be there. Wonder Woman did change my life, and the future of female superheroes will surely change the lives of many more young girls throughout the digital age. So, what is then the assimilated image of the superhero? Is it the femme fatale? If you don't know what a femme fatale is, it is an alluring and seductive woman who charms and snares her lovers in bonds of irresistible desire, often leading them into compromising, dangerous, and deadly situations. Alluring is no doubt the most used word that would be given to describe a femme fatale, which is usually actually quite true. Nowadays, the perception towards femme fatale, which literally means fatal woman or fatal female, is in contrast to how they are portrayed or described decades ago. Historically, femme fatales are said to have deep, sexy voices and is very provocative and complicated character. Though some considered those basic traits of them, usually the portrayal of what women are, they have taken a whole new level and have become a stronger, more independent character as a whole. The characteristics of femme fatale are almost perfect for villains and anti heroes, as their approach towards things tend to be somewhat selfish and often disregard how others view her actions. Irrespective of that, femme fatales are intelligent and they talk and behave in such a manner that can get the attention of someone that they usually target or even are after without being too direct, blatant, or showy. So, some comic characters like Mystique and Catwoman, Domino, and Poison Ivy tend to have the characteristic of a femme fatale. Could the assimilated image be the superhero? There was a time when most superheroines were always secondary in all aspects when compared to their male counterparts. And even then, not many of them stood out as superhero figures in the comic world. But with the gender and cultural barrier being thinned out, superheroines stand out to gradually seal their place and at the same time becoming equally important as others. Being just as capable as their male superheroes, superheroines can do well on their own. There are a number of superheroines that can go toe to toe against several in a more formidable manner. One of the most well known is Diana, or Wonder Woman, with powers that include superhuman strength, flight, healing factor, as well as speed, and capable of taking on the four horsemen of apocalypse and even some members of the Justice League. Nowadays, some comic characters tend to have a more realistic approach towards their background or lifestyle when it comes to superhero heroines, and even though the needs of these beings are no different from those of the modern woman. This is usually because superheroines are superior in a lot of ways compared to normal people, but this is actually makes it even harder for them to cope or blend in. Because usually, with their abilities, most of them are well to do individuals compared to others. But this does not exclude them from struggling with their own normal superhero life. The dealing of this problem is shown exceptionally by Karen Starr, or Power Girl, as she struggles to keep her global corporation from falling apart while at the same time fighting off the powered villain known as Power Girl. So it's the internal being fighting the external being as well. Could the assimilated image be the damsel in distress? A damsel in distress, usually in the older days of comics, is often portrayed as a young, helpless young woman placed in a dangerous, life threatening situation by a villain or a monster and waits for a hero to rescue her. While it is true back then that damsels in distress nowadays are a lot less weak and does not always need to depend on heroes or saviors to rescue her, damsels in distress usually get the upper hand in such situations and in most time from their own initiatives such as freeing herself from danger or alerting the authority or the superhero of the danger instead of waiting for them. Compared to how they were portrayed back then in the early days, damsels in distress in today's comic book shows the independent woman image, how strong this character really is without depending on other forces to help them. On the basis of it all, damsels in distress characters need help from superheroes, or it's like when it is in danger. Yes? And even though when the damsels in distress tend to rely on these characters to rescue them, because obviously it will defeat the whole purpose of being a damsel in distress if they didn't, but it would not matter overall. So here it shows that someone may come and help them out because it would be quite tricky or difficult not to be portrayed as the damsel in distress by a modern woman. Though this is not the case, usually if you were to apply to certain characteristics to a woman, like in the medieval timeline as compared to the modern timeline that we live in today. Another perception of the assimilated image of the superhero, the female superhero, could be the sidekick. Now, a sidekick is usually a close companion or a student or a trainee that's becoming a promising, powerful superhero, and in a way who helps out the prime character, commonly referred to as the mentor or the person in the superior position of the superhero alliance. There are a few misunderstandings going around as to how a female sidekick should be portrayed, mainly because most of the female sidekicks in comics today are solid characters. They are truly independent. They are very capable. They usually tend to have enormous amount of power compared to the person that they're being mentored onto. And also individuals who tend to, fight back as well as enough on their own, even before being a sidekick, which makes the idea of teaming up with someone to be more of a duo or a tag team approach rather than being a sidekick. If you read enough comic, you will see how it is. There are not enough or many female sidekicks in comics compared to their male counterparts, but most of them can hold their own ground. Though the issue is not being brought up often, it is well received by today's readers, as it goes to show how well sidekicks rise to any given situation and how they're not merely second-tier characters. Female sidekicks are equal to their male counterpart and often a force that their superior can rely on. So I would like to say, in summing it all up, whether you view the assimilated image of the superhero as the femme fatale, superheroine, damsel in distress, sidekick, or supervillains, it should be one in which that you find the leader in yourself. Thank you very much for listening to my talk. I hope you enjoyed it and enjoy the rest of lecture series in the Complutense University of Madrid One Asia lecture series.